All right, I think we're just about at time, so we can go ahead and get started. Thank you so much for coming. This is such a packed room. We love that. My name is Shannon Winter. I am the MC for the Team and Culture track. I see a lot of familiar faces that have come through the sessions yesterday and today, so we're really excited. You have a real treat ahead of you with Dom Price. I think you've heard throughout Summit, especially at the keynote this morning, that we are open sourcing our playbook, so all these plays or guides dedicated to helping your team be the best it can be, do the best work of their lives. And Dom, who's the original guru of this playbook, is going to give you a lot of helpful tips, do some interactive stuff with the audience. I think you're going to learn a lot. Another fun fact about Dom is that he's never broken a bone. Yet, but it's okay because he's a doctor. He also is always in costume, so whether he's in his doctor lab coat or dressed as Willy Wonka passing out candy in the Sydney office, he's always a good time. So also remember, you can ask Q&A in the app, and we will, if we have time, we'll go through it. If not, since it's lunch, he's happy to talk with you more after. So without further ado, Dom Price.
Matt and Bernie need him at the back. How you all doing? Oh, come on, you better than that. How are you doing? Better, right. Who's ready for some trust falls? We are not doing any trust falls. I hate that stuff. So a couple of quick caveats and housekeeping. I am not a doctor. Do not allow me to do things that you do with your doctor. I explain that because when we ran this session with the team in Austin, one of the girls walked up to the manager there and said, "Is this covered on my health care?" Right? It's not, right? There are no claimbacks or rebates for this. The other thing is, we're going to share some practical tips with you today. This is only going to be fun if you get involved. I have 40 minutes of stories I could just tell you, and I'm not going to. I can do that over a drink. I want to get you involved today, and I want you to have some fun with this. The whole idea of the playbook is to have some fun at work. Are you ready? Oh, that's a bit better. Okay. So the very first thing I need you to do without breaking the Wi-Fi is click on that link. Is to add that link onto your phone, your iPad, whatever device you're on, because we're going to do an exercise later, and I need you to be on that page when we do the exercise. So if you just jot that down, bit.ly/teampb, make sure you do it in capitals. It takes you to a really weird site if you don't, and I won't be talking about that. So why are we here today? We are here because we want you to build confidence. Confidence in the way you work and the way you interact with your teams. There is nothing I'm going to talk about today that relates to Atlassian tooling. Atlassian tooling is actually great at doing some of this, but this is agnostic to tools. This is around a conversation of how you work with the people in your organization. And that's because I firmly believe that people are the biggest assets in virtually every organization. I can't think of any I've worked in where it's been a machine that did something more powerful or more insightful than a person. Right? My hardest interactions every day aren't with my MacBook, it's with the people I work with, that diverse group of people. Oh, it's going backwards. So we're going to instill confidence in you. Confidence that you're doing the right thing, the right way, the right time with the right team. Now, why is this important? This chap, really hugely successful person, Neil Armstrong. Neil Armstrong didn't land on the moon. It's not a conspiracy theory. NASA did. We have this habit in life of celebrating the individual. We love to retell stories of the individuals and their success. Yet if you think about every great human achievement, there was a team behind them. That team doesn't always get the plaudits or the reward, but without that team, they wouldn't have been half as successful. I thought twice about putting this slide in, a little bit controversial. Sorry if there's any Warriors fans. But Steph Curry and this year LeBron James, right? They get all this credit and all these stories. We love telling stories about those individuals. But again, just think about the sheer amount of teams behind them that make them successful. So if you're going to enjoy today and you're going to learn something, you have to embrace the fact that this is not a solo exercise. It's all about the team. So why is this an issue? So I'm going to tell you a very quick personal story about my life at Atlassian and why this became a thing. It became a thing because at Atlassian, we've been scaling massively over the years. And scaling is a word that's overused, but when I think about it in my personal experience, It's that constant growth pain and constant chaos. And it's chaos on purpose, because when you're growing at the rate we've been, and I'm sure you're all in organizations that are scaling and changing every day, the thing that you did last week won't work next week. And that's hard, because you're like, well, but it worked. If I just repeat it, if I just do it again, will everything be okay? And it probably will. It will be just okay. But you're probably being challenged. You've been given a mantle and a desire and an expectation to go and improve things, to drive improvement in your organizations. So you can't always do what you did last week. The next thing is, you're all leaders. Whether you realize it or not, or whether you've got the word leader in your title, you are all leaders. There are people in your organization that are looking to you as role models, looking to you for insight, for challenge, for mentoring, for coaching. And the reason that's important is there's an expectation that you're a multiplier. It's not about the amount of work that you can get done today. It's nothing to do with the amount of work you can get done today. It's the impact you have on the people around you. And you can't take that impact lightly, because it could be a negative impact, or you could choose to make that a positive impact. So you are assumed to be a multiplier in your organization. And the last one is time. Put your hand up if you're time poor. Right? You should never, ever use the phrase time poor. Because if you are, use the word busy, it's shorter. It really annoys me when people, I'm time poor, I've been so busy cross-collaborating, to find synergies. I'm like, if you just stop talking bullshit, you'd get a lot more work done. But we are in an age of being busy. We're in an age of multiple technologies, context switching, social media, the way work and life and social life and family have just kind of blurred together. Right? The fact that I used to have a process of saying, work people, LinkedIn, friends, Facebook. And then suddenly, work people have ended up on Facebook. Right? And there's all this context switching. We have not got a huge amount of time. So again, as a leader, there's this expectation on you to drive that continual improvement and do it efficiently and effectively. And to do that, you need to be alert and aware of your environment. So they're the challenges I faced. I joined Atlassian just over 3.5 years ago as employee number 600 and something. And as Scott and Mike mentioned in our keynotes now, we're approaching 2,000. We've added a number of locations. We've added diverse people. We've added new skill sets and at large volumes. So we've got this concept, and Scott mentioned this before, around tools. We've talked to you about tools and products. But my belief, and hopefully the reason you're here today, is that it's not just about tools and products. To have great teams, you need to combine great practices. Now, the word practice is in there on purpose and not by mistake. It's because the word process makes me convulse. I hate it. And I'm going to talk a little bit about why I hate it. So what makes a team successful? We decided to analyze this because we acknowledged that the great achievements were born from teams. But teamwork's really hard. It's not easy. Just like there's a whole lot of talk right now around diversity. It's not hard to buy a book in an airport and read about diversity. It's really hard to embrace diversity and live and breathe that every day. And we found the same thing with teams. We could wax lyrical around teams, but could we actually take action that made our teams more efficient and effective? So we did a typical thing that Atlassians, the engineers do. We looked at what we had already. We had a really rich process of individual performance reviews. We hire individuals. We reward individuals. We build career development plans for individuals. Sometimes, sadly, we fire individuals. Everything was geared towards the individual. But what we needed was something different. We needed a way of understanding how those individuals form together in this new environment, this new dynamic of the team. Now, an interesting thing happened when we looked at this. When we looked at some of our teams that had our smartest individuals in them, they were still failing occasionally. They were still struggling. And it confused me. I just assumed if you put smart people in a room, they'd just get on. But what I learned is great minds don't think alike. If you surround yourself by like-minded people, you'll be really efficient because everything will get done because you will all agree all the time. But you've got to wonder how effective you're going to be. If you're not representing those different cognitive thoughts, the cultural diversity, the religious diversity, different subject matter experts. When I look in our organization, our best work is done when we combine our engineers and our designers and our product managers. That natural tension, the sparring that they do, That's where genius gets created. If an engineer works by themselves, you're going to get a great technical solution that's probably not going to be great looking and great user experience and might not be solving a problem. And so it's really important that we bring these different viewpoints together. Now, the challenge was we couldn't find anything. We looked externally. We're quite happy to rent or buy services where someone else has done it. But we were looking at things like Dr. Bob Cooper and his stage gate process. We were looking at things like Agile, which really resonated with us but wasn't helping us understand that dynamic of the team. So we decided that we were going to create our own thing. Now, it's important to note here, you have a choice. What I'm explaining to you today and the way Atlassian works is not the answer. I'm not trying to sell you something that you don't want to buy. This is a way that works for us. It won't work for everyone. Now, the choice you have to make here is there may be environments where standardization, where repeatability, where process actually works, where you want to eliminate variability. But when we looked at our environment, and I'm sure it's the same for a lot of you, we go through all this effort to hire really smart people and then give them a 10 bullet point list of things they have to follow every day. We actually take the smarts out of them and we're dumbing them down. We're making them simple beings. And yet what we've hired them for, and the reason we liked them as a candidate, was because they were creative, or they were dynamic, or they were different. But instead of embracing that, we beat it out of them. So we didn't want command and control. We didn't want Scott or Mike to decide on a way of working and decree it to the organization and us all sit there and nod, because they've gone out to hire people with a values fit. Values around play as a team, values around open company, no bullshit. So we realized that we had to create our own, and the Atlassian way is different. There's a few principles that are quite important to thinking about this when you take it back to your organization. We are providing plays, and we use the word play on purpose because it is playful, and it's an experience, it's an exercise. And they are guardrails. They are not 100% fit. That you cannot take them, plug them into your organization, and leave and high-five everyone, because you'll have to adopt them to your environment. They are suggestive, but they are not the answer. They were not created by me. They were not created by Bernie and Matt from my team who are at the back of the room and running the booth today. They were created by our teams. We observed our teams who were doing great work. We looked at the things they were doing that made them great, and we wrote it down. It's so frustrating because it's not that difficult. It's kind of common sense, but we hadn't been doing it. We've learned to embrace variability, but only where it's valuable. Like, don't reinvent the wheel every single time just because you want to be creative. Reinvent the wheel because you need a new wheel. And so what we've found is our teams will copy, cut, and paste and reuse a huge amount of information where they can and just add that 10 or 20% to make it personal for their environment. It's all around freedom. There's no decree, there's no thou must do, you must do a health monitor today, you must run these plays. We leave it up to the teams. And what that means is they feel empowered, right? They own the outcome. They feel like they're accountable, they feel like they're responsible. And enables us to keep very small, nimble teams that can run really fast. We haven't got large, monolithic teams. If you're thinking about Jira as an example, about 120, 130 people, it's 15 teams. 15 small, nimble teams that own their own destiny and work really well together. So as Scott mentioned before, and for anyone who was here last year, we actually launched the Team Health Monitor last year. Now, I'm quite happy to admit when I make a mistake. I was adamant last year, and for a few months after Summit, that all teams were the same. There was one health monitor for all, and when anyone challenged me and said otherwise, I would beat them down. And then I was doing an exercise with the leadership team, and it just became very apparent that leadership teams behave differently. And I started to look at why. Why are leadership teams different? They're different because they're often made up of people that are spending 80% of their time on projects, that are busy executing and delivering, and then they do this giant context switch and go, oh, I'm a leader. What does that mean? Oh, we just sit around, you post-it notes, meetings, agendas, actions, just the normal stuff. But no, being a leader is that multiplier. And so what we found was our leadership teams were struggling with that context switch because they were spending so much time in the project, in delivery, that they were using the same patterns, the same approach to when they were being a leader. And as a leadership team, you have a very different function. You exist to impact, to set vision and direction for large groups of people, often around the world in distributed teams. But what we were finding was our leadership teams were just looking down. They were looking down at their world, their team, their environment, and not bringing the best of themselves to how they could grow the leadership team. The leadership team where they would often spend 15, 20% of their time. The next one was service teams, and service teams was a bit of a hallelujah moment for us. We'd actually run a whole lot of project health monitors with service teams in Austin, San Francisco, and Sydney. And bless them, they were trying their hardest to make it adapt and trying to think about projects. And then we suddenly had this moment when we realized service teams don't own their own backlog. Service teams are a servant, given the nature of their name, to other teams in the organization. They are a subsystem that contributes to the greater system. And they had a completely different rhythm and cadence to project teams and leadership teams. So what we did was the exact same thing. A couple of the team went out, they sat with service teams, they looked, they listened, and they learned. And they learned how great service teams operate, and we identified 8 new attributes that work really well for service teams. Customer centricity is a great example. For some project teams, yes, you need to know who your customer is, but it's not often as paramount as a customer service team when the whole reason you exist is to serve that customer. The other dynamic we've been able to understand with service teams is how do they mix their time between on cue, when they act like a service team, and off cue, when they act more like a project team. And this is when we had another realization. As an individual, you are probably a member of many teams. And simply knowing which team you're in at that moment in time and knowing what your role is extremely valuable before you do anything else. So the health monitors were great for identifying problems. It was a mirror, right? Scott mentioned this morning, it's like a physical for your team. And so we've been running these sessions, hundreds of sessions around the globe, a great way of going, what are our strengths, what are our weaknesses, and really shining a mirror in front of the team. And it's a mirror that's not controversial because it's a conversation. When you think about diverse teams, it's really hard for me to walk up to you and go, I think I'm the full-time owner, you think you're the full-time owner, and you're wrong, we need to have a chat about that. It sounds quite conflicting. It's a hard conversation to have. But what we found is by putting these 8 attributes on a page and sharing them with teams and just letting them talk, no laptops, no phones, just talk with each other, they actually got to understand their different perspectives. Now, the great thing with doing that is you realize where you're struggling, and then we had this Eureka Moment of going, how do we connect the struggles with the actions to improve? So if we've just done the annual physical, what exercises do we need to do? What muscle do we need to build to get better as a team? So this is how we do it. It's really incredibly simple. First thing we do is we set the scene. We set the stage. We get the team in the room. A couple of questions that have come up on the booth so far this week are, how do you know the right people to get in the room? It's whoever you need in there to have a rich discussion. If you exclude someone from the room because they're the protagonist, you're probably going to give them an action. It's just going to end up a bit of a whinge fest. Put your hand up if you've ever done that. Keep someone out of the room so you can have a good bitch and whinge about them. Now, it's cathartic. You feel great after it, but you've not moved anything. You've not changed the outcome. And so the setting the scene is for us to say, everyone in this room is equal, and regardless of what stimulus we're looking at, we're probably looking at it through a unique lens. My lens is different to your lens. My life is different to yours. Our experiences, our background, our upbringing, our water bottle. But it's all right to embrace those differences. You want to listen for the differences. So we set the stage, everyone is equal, and it's a conversation. And the next thing is, it's either Post-it notes or the best exercise ever, the thumb. One of the best inventions by man. And the reason the thumb's a great invention is it takes the celebrity out of the room. So every single session I've ran, there is a celebrity in the room. Not Brad Pitt, but there's the person that just talks. And you don't want to hear from them because you know their opinion. So we use the magic of the thumb. And it has to be the right thumb. It doesn't work with the left, right? You've got to put your thumb behind your back. Everyone do it now. Thumb behind your back. And we go, full-time owner. So think of a project you're working on. Do you have a full-time owner? Are they 80% dedicated to the project? Are they championing the project inside and outside the team? And everyone sits around the room and we go, 3, 2, 1, and we do a reveal. Thumb up is good. Thumb sideways is, yeah, not great, but not terrible. And thumb down is bad. And it's wonderful because what you see people go, oh, shit, sorry. And you go, no, I like that answer. Like, what are you seeing that made you go thumb down? Well, I thought it was Mary, but I actually think it's Bob. And Bob's like, oh, I thought it was Mary, but I think it might be me. And you have the conversation. The best one is when everyone goes green. And you go, who is it? Bob, Mary, Joseph. Whoa. You're actually red, right? So it's a rich discussion. And it's not a right or a wrong answer. It's just listening to each other. Again, really incredibly simple. No tooling involved. Once we've done the rating, we're trying to collate those to get those differences of opinion. And ultimately, what we're trying to do is get, again, that rich discussion, but for one purpose. We actually want to land on focus areas. And this is important because one of the challenges with doing something like a health monitor is it can feel like a complete downer. When you do it at the start of a project or with a new leadership team or a new service team, and all 8 areas are red, you've got this room with people, oh, it's not very good. You're like, no, it's great. You know. Like, knowing is the first part. If you know, you can do something about it. The discussion here is around saying, how do we understand the difference between the symptoms and the cause? So a quick example, we had a whole lot of teams last year when we were doing this. We're like, yeah, we're struggling with velocity, so we're going to hire some more people. I'm like, oh, what will that do to your velocity? It won't change it at all. The reason we're slow is we have no shared understanding of why we're doing what we're doing, so we're all doing different things. Good. Go and fix the shared understanding, and that will lead to an improvement in your velocity rather than throwing people at the problem. Now, we then get to that stage of knowing what's yellow, what's red, how do we focus? We don't want you to be paralyzed at this stage. We want you to be invigorated. Invigorated because you've identified the problem and you've got a chance. So this is the stage where you shouldn't panic, because what we've shipped in the playbook is 20 plays that have been built by our teams. They are used by our teams on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, and they are practical guides, techniques, exercises that you can look at any of those 8 attributes on any of those health monitors, and it will point you at plays that enable you and your team to get better. Now, the important thing here is this is not a solo exercise. If you try and do this by yourself, it ends up being like those leadership courses you go on. Like the leadership courses I used to go on where I'd go and learn about empathy, or I'd go and learn about vulnerability, and I'd get back to the office, and my entire team, the poor things, have been working their asses off while I've been on some crazy leadership course. I'm like, guys, we need to be more vulnerable. Is everyone ready to be vulnerable? And they're like, no, go away, we've got work to do. So those leadership courses where you go by yourself and you make it about you, that's not you being a leader, that's you being a manager. If you want to scale, if you want to be that multiplier, if you don't want to be busy but you want to be effective, your role is actually to be a leader and to have these rich conversations, to get the team involved. What we've found is when the team identify their own problems, their motivation for solving them is significantly higher than someone coming in and going, velocity is broken for you, you better fix it or else. Significantly higher because they've identified it. Then they feel like they own the solution. They own navigating out of that. Now, not only is that good for motivation, it's good because they are closer to the coal face. They know their environment better than I do. Like my alternate name for being a doctor could be being a pigeon if I fly in every time, go, your project's rubbish, you crap at velocity, shit everywhere, and then I fly out again. And we've all done that, right? We've all had that habit of going, I'm too busy or time poor, I can't remember which. And so I've not got time to explain to you why you're broken. I'm just going to tell you what's broken, tell you the solution, and then leave. And it's not engaging. It's not motivating. And it's not right for the people that you've hired, these smart, intrinsically motivated people. So the plays are there to design to address specific problems. We've done a little bit of mapping, but it's very suggestive. There isn't a one-to-one relationship that says, if you struggle with X, you must do Y. All right, it's up to you to go and discover what works for you. Oh, going the wrong way again. So don't panic. So does it work? We've run over 500 of these, and I'm going to tell you a little story about every single one of those. I'm not, right, because that would be really boring. Now, I can tell you stories about all the different health monitors we've run all over the world, but it's rhetoric, it's theory, it's anecdote, it's my world, and to be honest, it's a complete waste of time for you. Because you can go home and you can retell Dom's story, but everyone in your organization's like, who is this guy? What was he wearing? Was he really a doctor? I don't understand what you're saying. So what I want you to do instead is I want you to experience this. So the link that you clicked on before, bit.ly/teampb. What's on there are the 3 health monitors. So you are going to work with the person you are sat next to. And this isn't an exercise we do on purpose. They are likely going to be from a different environment than you. It doesn't matter. Sharing is caring. Being vulnerable is caring. So just trust me on this one. So go to the site. What I want you to do is I want you to pick one of the team types, either the project team or the leadership team or the service team. So agree with the person you're sat next to. And what I want you to do is, there's a link there called Grab It. If you click on Grab It, you will see the 8 attributes of that specific health monitor. And what I want you to do is to spend the next 4 minutes with the person next to you, pick one attribute, and share a story about how your teams work in that area, something that works really well for you, and something that you struggle with. So 4 minutes with the person next to you, have a discussion about the attributes, pick one, and we're going to roam around with a mic later and get you to share your stories. Go, 4 minutes. Sorry?
The page?
Page bit.ly. Dot. No.
Is there a slide with the URL on?
Yeah, but oh yeah, actually, that's a good point. I'll go back to it. Just for anyone that didn't have the site, that's the link just on the screen.
Tell their stories.
Yeah, yeah, and just provoke them with a question. You got a mic? Got a mic?
I'll take the...
Yeah. Which one have you picked?
Balance team.
Ah, a favorite of mine.
Smiley interacting shots.
Yeah.
Hard.
Yeah.
You're great.
So as you think about values and metrics,
Which one of you?
we're doing project.
Okay. Let's just call time on that little exercise. Who, show of hands quickly, who chose the project team health monitor? Okay, quite a few. Leadership team? Nice. Service team? Interesting, good mix. Okay, who wants to tell a story about how they just used the project team health monitor? Anyone? Put your hands up. Come on, we've got roaming mics. It's all about sharing. Don't be shy. Or we'll just, there we go. All right, we've got one down here. Bernie.
So we were talking about using the leadership track and how our own organization is going to reach the partner program certifications. And there's going to need to be some internal leadership and focus on that. So running these playbooks in parallel to the certification program to get everyone up to speed will be the endeavor for the next year.
Awesome, awesome. Anyone else want to share an experience? Go on, first one's always the hardest. I'll just pick on people. If anyone makes eye contact with me. There we go.
Dom, we've got one in the back.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we started talking about one specific example from my partner, and we're both in the same company, in the same organization, and it led right into this really interesting discussion about the way forward for fixing it. Without going too much into the specifics about our company, like, okay, this is something that could be helpful here, here, and here, not just in this one example that was the negative that you're trying to fix.
Yes, yeah, good observation. And so that's where the empowerment comes in. If you can quickly get over the discussion around the challenge, you very quickly move on to how do we collectively solve it, and that's a lot more enjoyable. Anyone who did the leadership health monitor? I saw a hand. Was it someone just hiding? Come on, hands up. Don't. Everyone just put the hands up. There we go. Well, we've got volunteers. Someone on this side who wants to tell us a story. Anyone? Come on.
Go on. Bernie and I are very competitive, and at the moment this is 2-0, so I need someone from this side.
Yeah.
Anyone from this side? Tell us a story. This guy here. You got a story? Awesome. Any of these people just down here, Matt? He's got a really
Thank you
keen
for volunteering.
face, like he's hiding from me.
I didn't do the leadership one, so.
Okay, which one did you do?
I'm sorry?
Which one did you?
The project one.
Tell us a story.
I'll tell you a story. You want to tell a story? No, I think the bit about the sort of decision making was really helpful. Understanding that who does what. Well, roles in the decision making.
Yeah.
Those were really critical, and anyway, I think that's going to be great help to us.
Awesome, thank you. Who did the service team health monitor? Oh, no one did it now. Now you know what I'm going to ask you.
We've got someone over here.
Just complete denial. I'm in the wrong session. I want to learn about Agile.
We were discussing Joy's team is the service team, and they do incident management, and the group swarms, and they come together, and they're completely focused on the customer and that customer centricity, and we're going to solve this. And the minute the issue's done, they disappear. So it brought us back to the keynote this morning where that's great, but here's the next issue, here's the next issue.
Yeah.
Where's the pattern? Where's fixing this so it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, in fact, one of the things we found with service teams is sometimes their goals and metrics are completely wrong. Like I was actually chatting to a service team, not an Atlassian service team, but a customer of ours, and they were celebrating how many tickets they'd closed. And I was like, that's really cool. Have you ever thought about a world where the customer didn't have to complain? Where you had less tickets, but you got them done quicker because you'd prevented the thing from going wrong. And they were like, yeah, well, I mean, we're gold on how many we closed, so we closed 1,000. I'm like, that's 1,000 people whose day you probably ruined. The fact that you solved it is a high five for you, but you're kind of missing the point. And so for service teams, understanding that mix of how do I learn when I'm on the queue, and how do I use that to focus my efforts when I'm off the queue. Thank you for sharing that. So what we shared this morning, we've launched it. It is a website. It is not a product. You do not have to buy anything. It is free of charge. If you have an internet connection of any form, you can just go on there and play with this. The current version we've launched is the 3 health monitors, project, leadership, and service team, and around 20 plays. The 20 plays aren't static. We will continue to evolve them as we practice and play internally and learn the way new teams work. We will likely add new health monitors in the future, and we will definitely be adding new plays. We're working on a new one right now around pre-mortem. So we have a great ritual around retrospectives at Atlassian. One of the things we realized was how could we get ahead? How could we, prevent bad things from happening? And one of the exercises we did with the team was a pre-mortem. Imagine everything's gone wrong. It's ship day, you're late, you're over budget, everything's gone wrong. What happened to make it go wrong? And teams go, oh, these 5 things. You go, awesome. How do we avoid them going wrong? It's like a risk management exercise, but fun. And so we found a lot of teams, because risk management ain't fun, trust me. So we found a lot of teams using that, and so we're in the process of codifying that. We're going to make that an exercise. So you'll see many more versions of the playbook. It is not a static document. The thing we want to ask you to do, the call to action, is a couple of things. One, we want you to play with it. We want you to go in there and have some fun with it. We firmly believe that there's a lot of value in there for any team around the world if they embrace the similarities. It's really easy to rationalize, oh, I'm not in a tech company, I'm not Atlassian, or I'm not this, or I'm not that. It's easy to find ways why it won't work. Try and avoid those, and just give it a try. It's free. I'm asking you to invest an hour of your time and your team's time in having a rich conversation. You know, if anyone has that hour and has a rich conversation and gets to the end of it and says, I should never have done that, maybe think about working somewhere else. But have that rich conversation, listen to your people, and give it a try. What you can also do is build your own. Like, we've built this based on our experience and our environment. We're actually doing some work in Sydney at the moment with charities, with not-for-profits. They've built a charity version of the Health Monitor. I got an email the other day from a lady who works in the Victorian government down in Melbourne in Australia. And she's built one for government because for them, probity and compliance was really important. Now, that's never going to feature on my Health Monitor, but was really important for their environment, and they've rolled that out across the entire department now. So you can go and build your own if you're willing to invest in looking, listening, and learning how your teams work and what great looks like versus confusion and angst and pain. And then the other thing we want you to do is to tell stories. So we've put a whole lot of feedback links on the site. We want to hear from you. If you have a definite different team type that isn't a project team or a service team or a leadership team, let us know. What environment does that team live and work in? Why do they exist? How do they operate? Because we're keen to learn from you. As you use the plays, if they work for you, let us know. If they don't, let us know. A lot of people have emailed me recently where they've tried the plays, and again, they've adopted them to their environment. And when I hear about that adoption, I'm like, it's pretty cool. That works for you. And so we want to share those. We want to form this ecosystem whereby if you learn that something that works well in manufacturing, we should be able to share that with everyone else in manufacturing. It's not a secret source. It shouldn't be something we keep secret. This is something we should share so we can all improve in how we work together. So why do we do this? Just a reminder. This is not something you can fix tomorrow. If you charge into your office this week, next week, at any point and go, guys, I've got the solution. We're going to do a health monitor and everything will be solved. You're kidding yourself and you're kidding your team. This takes a long time. As Scott showed this morning, when we first formed our Jira server team, there was a lot of red. I have done sessions with teams which have been a luminous red, but that's okay. Knowing that and then working on a plan together to solve it, that's what gives value to our teams, and that's what inspires me every day to do this, and hopefully inspires you to do the same thing. Thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, please ping them through. Thank you. Bernie and Matt from our team in Sydney are here. They're running the booth. So if you've got in-depth questions about specific plays, how to navigate the site, they've got the whole thing set up. We will answer any question, and we'd just love to hear from you as and when you try this. So thank you very much.